Every Egyptian household in which there was a firstborn male was affected, from the house of Pharaoh himself to the firstborn of the prisoner. It was not the head of the house, even though he may have been a firstborn, but was any male firstborn in the household under the head, as well as the male firstborn of animals, that was slain. X 12. 29, 30. See firstborn, fistling. The 10 plagues upon Egypt all proved to be a judgment against the gods of Egypt, especially the 10th, the death of the firstborn. X 12. 12 For the ram male sheep was sacred to the god Amun-Ra, so that splashing the blood of the Passover lamb on the doorways would be blasphemy in the eyes of the Egyptians. Also, the bull was sacred, and the destruction of the firstborn of the bulls would be a blow to the god Osiris. Pharaoh himself was venerated as a son of Ra. The death of Pharaoh's own firstborn would thus show the impotence of both Ra and Pharaoh. In the wilderness in the Promised Land. Only one Passover celebration in the wilderness is mentioned. New 9. 1-14 The keeping of the Passover during the wilderness journey likely was limited, for 2 reasons. 1. Jehovah's original instructions were that it must be kept when they reached the Promised Land. X 12. 25. 13. 5. 2 Those born in the wilderness had not been circumcised. Jos 5. 5, whereas all male partakers of Passover had to be circumcised. X 12. 45-49. Record of Passovers observed. The Hebrew scriptures give direct accounts of the Passover, 1 in Egypt X 12. 2 in the wilderness at Sinai, Nisan 14, 1512 BCE New 9. 3 when they reached the Promised Land, at Gilgal and after the circumcision of the males, 1473 BCE Jos 5. 4 at the time that Hezekiah restored true worship 2 ch 30. 5 the Passover of Josiah 2 ch 35. And 6 the celebration by Israel after the return from Babylonian exile as 6. Also, mention is made of Passovers held in Samuel's day and during the days of the kings, at 2 ch 35. 18. After the Israelites were settled in the land, the Passover festival was observed in the place that Jehovah will choose to have his name reside, instead of in each home or in the various cities. In time, the chosen place came to be Jerusalem. The 16. 1-8. Accretions. After Israel had settled in the Promised Land, certain changes were made and various accretions came about in observing the Passover. They no longer partook of the feast in a standing position, or equipped for a journey, for they were then in the land that God had given them. The first-century celebrants customarily ate it while lying on their left side, with the head resting on the left hand. It explains how one of Jesus' disciples could be reclining in front of Jesus' bosom. Joe 13. 23 Wine was not used at the Passover in Egypt, nor was there any command given by Jehovah for its use with the festival. This practice was introduced later on. Jesus did not condemn the use of wine with the meal, but he drank wine with his apostles and afterward offered a cup for them to drink as he introduced the Lord's evening meal, the memorial. Luke 22. 15-18, 20. According to traditional Jewish sources, red wine was used and 4 cups were handed around, although the service was not restricted to 4 cups. Psalms 113-118 were sung during the meal, concluding with Psalm 118. It is likely that it was one of these psalms that Jesus o textoi acute miritra longo, pasture grounds 583 observance. In an Oriental home all the rooms could be slept in, and several persons could be accommodated in one room. Also, the flat roof of the house could be used. Added to this is the fact that numbers of the celebrants obtained accommodations outside the city walls, especially at Bethphage and Bethany, 2 villages on the slopes of the Mount of Olives. Mr. 11. 1. 14. 3. Questions as to time order. It was a question of defilement that gave rise to the words. They themselves did not enter into the governor's palace, that they might not get defiled but might eat the Passover. Joe 18. 28 These Jews considered it a defilement to enter into a Gentile dwelling. Act 10. 28 This statement was made, however, early in the day, hence after the Passover meal had taken place. It is to be noted that at this time the entire period, including Passover day and the festival of unfermented cakes that followed, was at times referred to as Passover. In the light of this fact, Alfred Edelsheim offers the following explanation. A voluntary peace offering was made on Passover and another, a compulsory one, on the next day, Nisan 15, the first day of the festival of unfermented cakes. It was this second offering that the Jews were afraid they might not be able to eat if they contracted defilement in the judgment hall of Pilate. The Temple, 1874, pages 186, 187. The first day of the unfermented cakes. A question also arises in connection with the statement at Matthew 26, 17. On the first day of the unfermented cakes the disciples came up to Jesus, saying, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" The expression the first day here could be rendered the day before. Concerning the use of the Greek word here translated first, a footnote on Matthew 26, 17 in the New World Translation says, or, on the